I found out my parents had transferred the family jeweler shop to my sister, so I quit working 80 hours a week for free. A week later, Dad called in panic. Our biggest client is about to leave. I answered calmly, let the heir handle it. I discovered the truth on a Tuesday afternoon while looking for insurance documents in Dad's office filing cabinet. There, tucked between outdated lease agreements and vendor contracts, sat the transfer paperwork. Harrison Family Fine Jewelers. The business my grandfather started in 1962, the shop where I'd spent nearly every waking hour for the past 8 years, had been legally transferred to my younger sister Melissa 3 months ago. My hands trembled as I read through the documents. Every asset, every piece of inventory, the building itself, all of it now belonged to her. The date on the paperwork was June 15th. 3 months. They'd kept this secret for 3 months while I continued working myself into exhaustion, believing I was building my future. I carefully returned everything to its place and walked back onto the sales floor. Dad stood at the repair counter, examining a vintage Cartier watch under his loupe. Mom was helping a customer select an engagement ring. Melissa sat at the desk near the window, scrolling through her phone as usual. None of them looked up. The shop had been my entire world since I graduated high school. While my friends went to college, I stayed behind to learn the business from the ground up: gemology, metalwork, customer relations, accounting, inventory management. I absorbed everything Dad would teach me. I earned my GIA certification through night classes, studying after 10-hour shifts at the shop. I built relationships with our suppliers, traveled to trade shows, expanded our custom design services. Melissa, on the other hand, went to college. She studied marketing at UCLA, spent her summers backpacking through Europe, joined a sorority. She'd show up at the shop maybe twice a month, usually when she needed money. She couldn't tell the difference between a round brilliant and a princess-cut diamond. She once asked a customer if sapphires came from mines or trees, yet somehow she was now the sole owner of Harrison Family Fine Jewelers. I finished out the rest of that Tuesday on autopilot, helped Mrs. Chen select pearls for her granddaughter's graduation, sized Mr. Thompson's wedding band, processed 3 online orders, updated our social media accounts, confirmed appointments for the rest of the week. All of the tasks I'd done 1,000 times before, except everything felt different now. That evening, I sat in my apartment and really looked at my life for the first time in years. I lived in a cramped studio because I couldn't afford anything better. My car was 15 years old with a broken air conditioner. My savings account held exactly $3,247. I hadn't taken a vacation since high school. I worked an average of 80 hours per week, including weekends. I did all of this without a salary. The arrangement had always been that I was building equity in the family business. Dad said I was investing in my future. He said the shop would eventually be mine, that I was earning my inheritance through hard work and dedication. I'd believed him. I'd sacrificed everything: my 20s, my social life, relationships, opportunities, because I thought I was securing my future. Wednesday morning, I woke up with perfect clarity. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was done. I got dressed, drove to the shop, and arrived at my usual time of 6:30 a.m. I made coffee in the back room while pulling up templates on my laptop. By the time Mom and Dad arrived at 800, I had drafted my resignation letter and compiled a detailed handover document. "Good morning, sweetie," Mom said, hanging her coat in the back. "Did you remember to call about the showcase lighting?" "We need to talk," I said. "All of us, including Melissa." Dad frowned. "Melissa doesn't come in on Wednesdays. You know that." "Call her. This concerns her directly." Something in my tone made them both stop. Dad pulled out his phone without argument. 20 minutes later, Melissa walked in, annoyed at being summoned. "This better be important, Ellen," she said. "I have a Pilates class at 11. I placed 2 copies of my resignation letter on the counter, one for Mom, one for Dad. "I'm resigning from Harrison Family Fine Jewelers, effective immediately." The silence stretched for several seconds. What Mom's voice came out as a whisper. "I'm quitting. I won't be working here anymore." Dad finally picked up the letter, scanning it quickly. "Ellen, what's this about? Did something happen?" "I found the transfer documents. I know you signed the business over to Melissa." Mom's face went pale. Melissa looked confused. Apparently she hadn't known. "I didn't know. Honey, we were going to tell you," Mom started. "When?" "After another year of 80-hour weeks, after I turned 30 and realized I'd given you a decade for nothing." "It's not nothing," Dad said, his voice rising. "You've learned invaluable skills. You have experience that I could have gained while actually getting paid." I interrupted, keeping my voice level. "You lied to me. For years, you told me I was working toward ownership. You let me believe my future was here. We never promised anything in writing. Dad said, shifting into business mode. You chose to work here. Nobody forced you. The coldness in his statement sealed everything for me. You're absolutely right. I chose to work here, and now I'm choosing to leave. You can't just abandon the family business. Mom's voice cracked. It's not my family business. According to the legal documents, it's Melissa's business. I turned to my sister. Congratulations on your inheritance. I hope you enjoy it. Melissa had been silent throughout this exchange, but now she spoke up. Ellen, I didn't ask for this. Mom and Dad thought. I don't care what you asked for or what they thought. This is what happened, and I'm done. I pulled a thick folder from my bag. This contains passwords for all our accounts, contact information for our top suppliers, details on pending orders, client preferences, upcoming appointments, and maintenance schedules. Everything you'll need. Dad's expression shifted from anger to panic. Ellen, be reasonable. You can't leave us like this. We have the Morrison anniversary party order due next week. The Kin's custom engagement ring needs final approval. Mrs. Patterson's estate appraisal. Those are business matters that the owner should handle. I looked at Melissa. You're the owner. Handle them. I don't know how to do any of that, Melissa said. Then learn, I replied. I did. I collected my personal items from the back office, a few books, my favorite mug, a photo of Grandpa Harrison from before he passed. Everything else belonged to the shop. I walked through the store one final time, past the display cases I'd arranged, the repair bench, where I'd spent countless hours, the design table, where I'd sketched custom pieces for customers. Ellen, please, Mom called after me. We can discuss this. We can work something out. I paused at the door. There's nothing to discuss. You made your choice, and I'm making mine. The first few days were strange. I slept past 600 a.m. for the first time in years. I went to the grocery store on a weekday morning and marveled at how empty it was. I read an entire book in one afternoon. I forgot what day it was because it didn't matter anymore. My phone rang constantly. Mom called every few hours, leaving voicemails that alternated between guilt trips and bargaining. At least come in part-time. What about just handling the repair work? Think about our customers. I didn't answer. Melissa texted me daily. Most of her messages were panicked questions. How do I use the inventory system? What does rhodium plating mean? A customer is asking about clarity grades, and I don't know what to say. I didn't respond. Dad didn't reach out at all, which told me everything I needed to know about his pride. On day 5, I started job hunting. I updated my resume, highlighting my GIA certification, my metalworking skills, my customer service experience. Within 2 days, I had 3 interviews scheduled at competing jewelry stores in the area. They were all surprised to learn I was available. We heard you were set to take over your family's business, the manager at Prestige Gems said during my interview. Plans changed, I replied simply. By the end of the week, I had 2 job offers. Both included actual salaries, real paychecks with benefits, and paid time off. The concept felt surreal. One position was with an upscale boutique in Beverly Hills. The other was with a jewelry designer who specialized in custom engagement rings and needed someone to manage her growing business. I was leaning toward the designer position when Dad finally called. It was Thursday evening, 6 days after I'd walked out. His name flashed on my screen and I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Ellen, his voice sounded strained. We need to talk. The Silverman account. They're threatening to leave. David and Ruth Silverman had been shopping at Harrison's for 37 years. They'd bought engagement rings, anniversary gifts, family heirlooms. Ruth came in quarterly to have her jewelry cleaned and inspected. David purchased a new piece for her every birthday and Christmas. They spent roughly $40,000 annually with us, one of our top 5 accounts. Why are they leaving? I asked, though I already knew. Ruth came in yesterday for her quarterly cleaning. Melissa didn't know the proper procedure. She threw Ruth's vintage Tiffany bracelet into the ultrasonic cleaner without checking it first. The piece has delicate filigree work that got damaged. Ruth was upset. I closed my eyes. The ultrasonic cleaner was powerful, too powerful for certain types of jewelry. I'd learned that in my first month. It was basic knowledge. Melissa tried to explain. Dad continued, but she made it worse. She offered to repair it, but then admitted she doesn't know how to work on vintage pieces. Ruth asked where you were, and Melissa said you didn't work here anymore. Ruth wants to speak with you directly, or they're taking their business elsewhere. I see. Ellen, this is serious. If we lose the Silvermans, others might follow. You know how small the jewelry community is here. Word spreads. It does. Silence stretched between us. I could hear him breathing, could picture him in his office, probably sitting at the desk where I'd found those transfer papers. What do you want me to do, Dad? Come back, talk to Ruth, repair the bracelet, smooth things over. No. Ellen, you signed the business over to Melissa. This is her problem to solve. She can't handle this. You know she can't. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you gave her the business. We thought he trailed off. You thought what? That I'd keep working for free forever? That I'd be grateful to serve my little sister for the rest of my life? We thought you'd understand. Melissa needs security. She doesn't have your skills or your work ethic. The business will give her stability. Something about that statement made me laugh. A harsh, bitter sound. So because she's less capable, she deserves to inherit everything. That's your logic. That's not what I meant. Dad, let me explain something to you. I spent 8 years learning this business. I sacrificed my youth, my education, my social life. I did it because you promised me a future. You lied. And now that your lie is catching up with you, you want me to bail you out. This isn't just about me. This is about the family legacy. Your grandfather built this business. Don't you care about that? I cared about it more than anyone. But Grandpa's gone, and apparently his business belongs to someone who can't even safely clean a bracelet. That's not my doing. Ellen, please, I'm asking for your help. And I'm saying no. I took a breath. But I'll give you some free advice. Tell Melissa to call Diane Morris at Heritage Jewelry Restoration. Diane specializes in vintage pieces. She'll be able to repair the Tiffany bracelet. It'll cost you, but she's worth it. What about Ruth? She wants to talk to you. Ruth has my number. If she calls me personally, I'll speak with her. But I won't step foot in that shop to fix your problems. This is petty, Ellen. This isn't like you. You're right. The old Ellen would have come running the moment you called. The old Ellen would have fixed everything, asked for nothing, and gone back to working for free. But that Ellen doesn't exist anymore. You killed her when you forged ahead with those transfer papers. I heard him inhale sharply. We didn't forge anything. This was a family decision. A family decision I wasn't included in. Interesting definition of family. Your mother and I discussed it extensively. We did what we thought was best. Best for whom? Certainly not for me. He was quiet for a long moment. What do you want, Ellen, money? We can put you on salary. $20 an hour. $20 an hour. I have a GIA certification and 8 years of specialized experience. I've been offered $45 an hour, plus benefits, plus commission on sales. Another silence. Who offered you that? Does it matter? Are you really going to work for our competition? They're not your competition. They're my employers. There's a difference. Ellen, I'm asking you one more time. Come back. We can work this out. We can draw up a contract that gives you partial ownership, a real salary. Partial ownership. I almost laughed again. Dad, I already owned it. I built half of what that shop is worth. The custom design service that now accounts for 30% of your revenue, I started that. The social media presence that brings in younger customers, me. The relationship with Emerald City Gems that gets you priority access to premium stones, I cultivated that over 4 years. Then don't throw all that away. I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that when you signed those papers. So this is revenge. You're going to stand by and watch the business collapse. His words hung in the air. I thought about that, whether this was revenge. It didn't feel like revenge. Revenge implied anger, a desire to hurt. I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt free. I'm not standing by watching anything. I'm moving forward with my life. If the business collapses, it's because the person you chose to run it can't run it. That's a consequence of your decision, not mine. We can't lose the Silvermans. Then let the Heir handle it, I said calmly, and ended the call. I sat in the silence of my apartment phone in hand and felt nothing but relief. Ruth Silverman did call me that evening. We spoke for 20 minutes. I apologized for the incident, explained that I no longer worked at Harrison's, and gave her Diane Morris's contact information. I also mentioned that Alexandra Fine Jewelry in Pasadena had an excellent reputation and would treat her pieces with appropriate care. I'm sorry to hear you've left, Ruth said. You were always so wonderful to work with, so knowledgeable and careful with my pieces. Thank you, Mrs. Silverman. That means a lot to me. David and I will have to reconsider where we do business. Harrison's isn't the same without you. After we hung up, I felt a twinge of guilt. Then I remembered the transfer documents, and the guilt evaporated. I'd given that business everything. They'd given me nothing in return. The weekend passed quietly. I accepted the position with a custom engagement ring designer, a woman named Jennifer Costa, who'd been featured in Vogue and had a 6-month waiting list for her pieces. My start date was set for the following Monday. The salary was $85,000 annually, plus commission on any designs I contributed to. It included health insurance, 2 weeks of vacation, and a 401k match. I'd been working for free for 8 years. Now I was making $85,000. That week before starting my new job felt surreal. For the first time since high school, I had actual free time with no guilt attached to it. I went to a yoga class on Tuesday morning. Wednesday, I met up with my old friend Rachel for lunch, someone I hadn't seen in over a year because I'd always been too busy at the shop. She barely recognized me at first. "Ellen, oh my God, you look different, more relaxed or something." We caught up over sushi and I told her everything. She listened with growing outrage, her California roll forgotten on her plate. "Are you kidding me? They just gave everything to Melissa after you basically ran that place." Apparently, I was too competent to need an inheritance. Rachel shook her head. "That's the most backward logic I've ever heard. So they punished you for being good at your job." Something like that. "Well, screw them. You're going to be amazing at this new place. Jennifer Costa is legit. I've seen her work all over Instagram. This is your chance to actually get credit for what you do." She was right. Thursday afternoon, I drove to Jennifer's studio in Silver Lake to sign my employment contract and get oriented before my official start date. The moment I walked into her workspace, I felt something shift inside me. The studio was bright and airy, with floor-to-ceiling windows that let in gorgeous natural light. Her design table was organized but lived in with sketches pinned to a massive corkboard and gemstones sorted into small glass dishes. "Ellen, welcome." Jennifer was in her early 50s with silver-streaked dark hair, pulled into a messy bun and paint-stained fingers. She wore jeans and a simple black t-shirt, such a contrast to the formal business attire my mother insisted on at Harrison's. "Come in, let me show you around." She walked me through every aspect of her operation. Unlike my father, who'd hoarded knowledge like it gave him power, Jennifer openly shared everything. She showed me her supplier contacts, her pricing formulas, her client management system. She pulled up portfolios of past work and explained her design philosophy. "I believe in collaboration," she said. "You're not here to just execute my vision. I want your ideas, your creativity. Some of my best pieces have come from brainstorming with my team." "Team," she said. "Team, not employee, not subordinate." We spent 3 hours together that afternoon. She asked about my experience, my training, what styles I was drawn to. When I mentioned my interest in incorporating vintage elements into modern designs, her eyes lit up. "Yes, that's exactly the kind of fresh perspective I need. I've been wanting to expand in that direction, but haven't had the bandwidth." She pulled out a folder. "Look at these potential clients who've reached out about redesigning inherited jewelry. I've been turning them away because I don't have time, but with you here, we could build an entire service line around this." My mind was already racing with possibilities. We could offer consultations where clients bring in their heirloom pieces and we discuss options for modernization while preserving sentimental elements. Some people just need a refresh, like turning a vintage brooch into a pendant. Others might want something completely new using the original stones. Exactly. And you have the technical skills to work with antique settings and delicate pieces. This could be huge for us. She grinned. "I'm so glad you applied here. When I saw your resume, I couldn't believe you were available. Your family shop has a solid reputation." Had I corrected gently, "It's under new management now." "Their loss," Jennifer said simply. "Seriously, Ellen. I've been in this business for 28 years. I know talent when I see it. And I know when someone's been undervalued. You're going to thrive here." I left her studio feeling lighter than I had in years, maybe ever. This was what work was supposed to feel like. Energizing instead of draining, collaborative instead of isolating, appreciated instead of taken for granted. Sunday afternoon, Melissa showed up at my apartment. I almost didn't answer the doorbell, but she called through the door. "Ellen, please, I just want to talk." I opened the door. She looked exhausted, hair pulled back messily, no makeup, dressed in sweatpants. So different from her usual polished appearance. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. She walked in and immediately started crying. "I can't do this," she sobbed. "I don't know what I'm doing. Every day is a disaster. Mr. Chen came in yesterday about his wife's ring repair, and I didn't know what he was talking about. I couldn't find the paperwork. He got angry and left. Mrs. Patterson called about her estate appraisal appointment, and I didn't know what information I was supposed to gather. The suppliers keep calling with questions I can't answer. I listened without responding. Why did they do this? Melissa continued. I never wanted the shop. I don't know anything about jewelry. I can't tell good stones from mediocre ones. I don't understand half the terminology. A customer asked me about conflict-free diamonds yesterday, and I had no idea what she meant. Did you ask Mom and Dad why they transferred it to you? She nodded, wiping her eyes. They said you were strong enough to make your own way. They said I needed the security more than you did. They said it wouldn't matter because you'd still be there running everything anyway. There it was, the truth laid bare. They'd given Melissa the ownership because they assumed I'd keep doing all the work regardless. They counted on my loyalty, my dedication to Grandpa's legacy, my inability to walk away. What do you want from me, Melissa? Help, please. I'll pay you. We can make you a partner or something. I'll split the ownership with you. No, Melissa. You came here because the business is failing, not because you feel bad about what happened. If everything was running smoothly, would you be here offering to split ownership? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You have 3 choices. First, you can keep trying to run the shop yourself. Learn on the job, make mistakes, lose customers. Eventually, maybe you'll figure it out. Second, you can hire an experienced jeweler to manage everything. It'll eat into your profits, but the business might survive. Third, you can sell the business while it still has value. I can't sell it. It's been in our family for generations. Then pick option 1 or 2. What about option 4, where you come back? That doesn't exist? She stared at me. You really hate us now, don't you? I don't hate you. I'm just done being taken advantage of. I didn't take advantage of you. Maybe not intentionally, but you benefited from it. You went to college while I worked. You traveled while I was stuck in the shop. You built a social life while I built someone else's business. And now you own that business and I own nothing. That's not my fault. It's not. But it's also not my responsibility to fix. Melissa left shortly after that, still crying. I felt bad for her. She'd been caught in the middle of our parents' poor planning. But my sympathy only extended so far. She could have turned down the transfer. She could have insisted I be included. She'd made her choices too. Monday morning, I started my new job. Jennifer Costa's studio was everything Harrison's wasn't. Modern creative focused purely on artistry rather than sales volume. She taught me new techniques, showed me her design process, trusted me with important clients. I worked 40 hours that first week and earned my first real paycheck. When I opened the envelope that Friday afternoon and saw the actual check, $1,634.62, after taxes, I sat in my car and cried. Not sad tears, but relief. Validation. Proof that I'd made the right choice. I deposited the check and immediately went to Target. For years, I'd put off replacing basic things because I was always broke. Now I bought new towels that weren't threadbare, a set of decent kitchen knives, sheets with an actual thread count, small things that normal people took for granted but felt like luxuries to me. That weekend, I started thinking seriously about my future in a way I never had before. With actual income, I could plan, save, invest, build something for myself. I opened a Roth IRA. I researched continuing education courses. I started a Pinterest board for my dream studio space, something that had once felt indulgent and impossible, but now seemed maybe achievable someday. The second week at Jennifer's, I met my first client. Her name was Sophia Martinez, and she wanted a custom engagement ring for her girlfriend's proposal. Jennifer sat in on the consultation, but let me take the lead. Tell me about her, I said. What does she love? What's her style? Sophia's face softened. She's a marine biologist obsessed with the ocean. She wears a lot of silver and turquoise, but I want something more elegant for the engagement ring. Something that represents her passions, but is refined enough for everyday wear. My mind immediately went to work. What about an aquamarine center stone? It's the color of tropical waters, clear blue-green. We could set it in platinum with a wave pattern band. Subtle enough to be classic, but meaningful to her specifically. Sophia's eyes widened. That's perfect. That's exactly what I couldn't articulate but knew I wanted. We spent an hour together sketching designs and looking at stone options. By the end of the consultation, Sophia had approved a design and put down a deposit. After she left, Jennifer pulled me aside. That was masterful. You read her perfectly and gave her something personal without being cheesy. That's a rare skill. Thank you. I love the puzzle of it, figuring out what someone really wants, even when they can't express it themselves. Well, you're exceptional at it. I'm putting your name on the website as a designer. Clients can request to work with you specifically. My name on a professional website, as a designer, not as the owner's daughter, not that girl who works at Harrison's, as Ellen Harrison, jewelry designer. The calls from my parents continued but grew less frequent. Dad tried anger. You're destroying your family over pride. Mom tried guilt. Your grandfather would be so disappointed. Neither approach worked. 3 weeks after I left, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Harrison Family Fine Jewelers had lost 4 major accounts: the Silvermans, the Kins, the Pattersons, and the Bronsons, all longtime customers who'd specifically asked for me and been told I no longer worked there. I also heard that Melissa had hired a manager, a recently retired jeweler named Frank Sutton. He was competent enough to keep the business running, but his salary plus benefits was eating significantly into their profit margins. 4 weeks in, Mom called with a different tone. Ellen, we need to discuss the financial situation. What about it? The business is struggling. We've lost too many key clients and Frank's salary is substantial. We're barely breaking even right now. That's unfortunate. We were wondering if you might be willing to invest in the business. We could offer you a stake in exchange for capital and your agreement to consult on major decisions. I almost laughed. You want me to pay money to partially own the business I built? When you put it that way, that's the only way to put it, Mom. The answer is no. We're family, Ellen. Family doesn't lie to each other for years. Family doesn't steal someone's future. We didn't steal anything. We made a business decision. And I'm making one too. My decision is to invest my time and energy into my own future, not yours. She hung up without saying goodbye. I threw myself into my new position. Jennifer appreciated my skills and gave me increasing responsibility. Within 2 months, I was designing my own pieces, custom engagement rings that clients specifically requested from me. My designs were featured on Jennifer's Instagram, which had over 200,000 followers. I started building my own reputation. One Saturday afternoon, about 3 months after I'd left Harrison's, I ran into Ruth Silverman at a coffee shop. Ellen, she smiled warmly. How wonderful to see you. I've been following your work with Jennifer Costa. Absolutely stunning designs. Thank you, Mrs. Silverman. That means a lot. David and I have been shopping at Alexandra Fine Jewelry like you suggested. They're lovely, but we miss your personal touch. She paused. We're celebrating our 45th anniversary next month. David wants to commission something special for me. Would you be available? My first major solo commission. Ruth Silverman, one of the clients my parents had been desperate not to lose, was now my client. I'd be honored, I said. She squeezed my hand. Your parents made a mistake, dear, but that's their loss and Jennifer's gain. The commission was for a custom necklace incorporating sapphires from a ring David's grandmother had given Ruth years ago. I spent weeks on the design, carefully preserving the vintage stones while creating something entirely new. The final piece was stunning, elegant, and timeless, with delicate metalwork that showcased the sapphires perfectly. Ruth cried when I presented it to her. David wrote me a check for $18,000, which included a generous tip. They also wrote a glowing review that Jennifer posted on her website. 6 months after I left Harrison's, Melissa called me. Not a text, not a message, through Mom, a direct call. Ellen, I need to tell you something. Okay. I'm selling the business. I felt a jolt of surprise. What? I can't do this anymore. Even with Frank managing everything, I'm miserable. I don't enjoy it. I dread going in every day. It's not my passion, and I'm tired of pretending it is. She took a breath. There's a corporate jewelry chain that's interested in acquiring us. They want the building and the client list. The offer is decent. What do Mom and Dad say? They're furious. Dad isn't speaking to me. Mom keeps crying about Grandpa's legacy. She laughed bitterly. Funny how now they care about family loyalty. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Are you, though? Honestly, I considered the question. Yes, actually. I'm sorry they put you in an impossible position. I'm sorry they gave you something you didn't want and expected you to want it anyway. I'm sorry, too. For what it's worth, I should have said something when they did the transfer. I should have insisted you be included. I knew it was wrong, but I was too selfish to speak up. It was the first real apology any of them had offered. Thank you for saying that. The sale should finalize in about 2 months. After fees and debts, I'll net around $850,000. I want to give you half. I hadn't expected that. Melissa, please. It's not about the money. It's about doing something right. You built half of that business's value. You deserve half of the sale. We talked for another 20 minutes. She told me about her plans. She was going back to school for a master's degree in environmental policy, something she'd always been interested in. She seemed lighter relieved. When the check arrived 8 weeks later, I stared at it for a long time. $425,000, more money than I'd ever imagined having. I put most of it into investments and savings, but I used some to pursue my JI graduate gemologist diploma, the highest credential in the field. I also started developing a business plan for eventually opening my own studio. Mom and Dad sent me one final message, a joint email that arrived the day after the business sale was finalized. Ellen, we hope you're happy now that you've destroyed your grandfather's legacy. We raised you better than this. Don't bother coming to family events anymore. You've made it clear where your priorities lie. I deleted it without responding. A year after I'd walked out of Harrison Family Fine Jewelers, I was thriving. I'd completed my graduate gemologist diploma. My custom designs for Jennifer's studio had been featured in 3 major publications. I'd built a waiting list of my own clients. I'd started dating a kind man I'd met at a gallery opening, someone who had his own career and interests who didn't expect me to sacrifice everything for someone else's dreams. I'd also reconnected with Melissa. We met for coffee every few weeks. She was excelling in her graduate program and seemed genuinely happy for the first time in years. Do you ever miss it? She asked me one afternoon. The shop, I mean. I miss Grandpa. I miss what I thought the shop represented, but the actual place, no. I don't miss working 80 hours a week for nothing. I don't miss being undervalued. Have you talked to Mom and Dad at all? No. Have you? Occasionally. They're still angry at both of us. You for leaving me for selling. Dad says we're ungrateful. Mom keeps trying to guilt me about the family legacy. Melissa stirred her latte. I think they genuinely don't understand what they did wrong. They probably don't. In their minds, they were being practical. Give the business to the daughter who needs help. Assume the competent daughter will stick around anyway out of loyalty. Is that really so wrong, though? From their perspective, I thought about it. Maybe not wrong exactly, just incredibly short-sighted. They gambled that I'd value family loyalty more than my own future. They lost that bet. Melissa smiled sadly. We both disappointed them by wanting different things than what they planned for us. That's their problem, not ours. 2 years after everything fell apart, I opened my own studio, Ellen Harrison. Fine jewelry, specializing in custom engagement rings and heirloom redesigns. Jennifer supported the move fully. She'd known it was coming and was proud to see me branch out on my own. My opening reception was packed. Ruth and David Silverman came along with dozens of other clients I'd worked with over the years. Former suppliers I'd built relationships with sent congratulations. Jennifer gave a speech about my talent and work ethic that made me tear up. Melissa came too, bringing her girlfriend Sarah and a bottle of expensive champagne. Congratulations, Ellen. This place is incredible. It was incredible. A beautiful space in a good neighborhood, filled with my own designs and vision. No lies, no broken promises. Just me, building something genuinely mine. My parents didn't come to the opening. I hadn't invited them. 3 years after I'd found those transfer documents, Dad called me. It was the first time we'd spoken since that conversation about the Silverman account. Ellen. Dad, I saw an article about your studio in Los Angeles Magazine. Your work is very impressive. Thank you. I wanted to apologize. Your mother and I, we handled things badly. We made assumptions about what you wanted, what you'd accept. We were wrong. I waited. We thought we were doing what was best for the family. We thought giving Melissa the security of the business made sense because you were always so capable. We didn't realize we were taking advantage of you. No, you didn't. Can we... He cleared his throat. Can we try to rebuild our relationship, not the business relationship, the family one? I looked around my studio at the designs I'd created, the life I'd built, the future I'd claimed for myself. Everything I'd accomplished in the 3 years since walking away from Harrison Family Fine Jewelers. Maybe I said finally, but it's going to take time. And it starts with you understanding that what you did wasn't just bad business. It was betrayal. I understand that now. Do you? Yeah, because you're apologizing after I've become successful. Would you be calling if my studio had failed? If I'd ended up broke and struggling? He didn't answer immediately. I'd like to think I would have, but honestly, I don't know. At least that was honest. We talked for a few more minutes. He told me about retirement, about how strange it felt not having the shop anymore. Mom was volunteering at a local museum. They'd downsized to a smaller house. Life had moved on without me in it. Before we hung up, he said, "Your grandfather would have been proud of you, Ellen, building your own business from nothing. That took real courage. Those words meant more than they probably should have. I'd spent so long working for Grandpa's legacy, trying to honor his memory by preserving what he'd built. But maybe the real way to honor him was doing what he'd done starting from scratch and creating something valuable through skill and determination. Thanks, Dad. That means something. After we hung up, I sat in my studio as evening light filtered through the windows. My phone showed a dozen messages, clients confirming appointments, a supplier sending updated inventory lists, Jennifer checking in about a collaborative piece we were working on. I thought about the Ellen from 3 years ago, who'd found those transfer papers and felt her world collapse. That version of me had believed her worth was tied to a business she could never truly own, to family approval she'd never actually receive. This version of me knew better. I'd learned that walking away isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you can do. I'd learned that family loyalty shouldn't require self-destruction. I'd learned that the people who truly value you won't wait until you're successful to apologize for how they treated you when you weren't. Most importantly, I'd learned that building something of your own, even if it means starting over with nothing, is worth more than inheriting something that was never really yours to begin with. The heir can handle it, I'd told my father that day when he called in a panic, and I'd meant it because I'd become my own heir. And that legacy, that one was truly mine.